Were you able to see Elton John when he was in?
No. Yeah, he was in Lincoln. It was
man.
just way too expensive.
Oh man, because I saw him here. Like he was in Phoenix for 2 days.
Nice.
So he was here on Friday and on Saturday. I saw him on Friday. We had nosebleeds because that was $120.
Oh yeah, I think like the cheapest ticket I saw here was like 800.
800?
Yeah, no, it was wild.
Wow. At PBA? This is at PBA?
At Pinnacle.
Gosh, dude. It was a really good show. It was like really sad because like the end of the show, he starts talking about how he's retiring and how he wants to spend time with his kids and stuff like that. And then like he had this whole video of like him walking off into the yellow brick road. It's like, oh my gosh, it was so sad.
Yeah. Which, I mean,
I'm not too proud to admit that I cried. I'm not.
Nice. I mean, that's fair.
Did you know that over $5 trillion exchanges hands on a daily basis? That's an average of over $220 billion an hour. Now, how does this much money move every single day, and why does it move the way it does? Here on Drunkenomics, two bartenders who also happen to be students at the University of Nebraska Graduate School of Business are going to sit down and drink to the global economy and try and translate it into English. So sit back, relax, pour yourself a stiff one, and have a drink with us to the comedy that is the global economy. And welcome back to yet another presentation of Drunkenomics. This is the drinking podcast with an economics problem. So glad you all can join us. By the power vested in the VIX, I am once again, for every time this year, except for the time I won some bets with you, James, I'm the less gracious host. And my name is Aaron Wong, and I'm joined alongside my wine drinking buddy.
Absolutely. And that makes me the more gracious host, James Goldwater. That's weird to say.
It's still,
still.
I mean, even after all this time, you think that you've gotten used to it, but no, it's still, for some reason, weird for you. Yeah. But before we tag our social media, which I really want to do in a little bit, I want to make just a little bet with you, because I want to regain the title.
And I will do what I can to help you, as long as it's a real bet.
Okay, yeah, but I'm giving you some leeway here. So I think the QQQ ETF, which is the Invesco Innovation, whatever you want to call it, ETF, it's just, I feel like it's just really just like the NASDAQ ETF. It's just like a lot of mega caps. But the Qs, the triple Qs, I think right now it's at 20. I think right now it's at 285.44 is what it closed at today. I think it's going to be below 270.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be below 270 a week from today, which is Monday, November 14th. So on Monday, November 21st, it's going to close below 270. Okay.
I think you're right, but I'll take I'll take the opposite side just so that there's a bet in place.
Yeah, and I might be overshooting it. I mean, I don't know technically where it stands right now. I haven't looked since Thursday, I think, of last week, or Friday of last week, but I forget where my lower target was. But whatever, 270 is what I'm sticking with. I get to be more gracious next week if that's the case.
Okay, done.
Cool. Awesome.
I'll take it.
Well, then, without further ado, let's tag our social media. If you guys want to hear some stupid bets like this, if you guys want to make some bets with us, I mean, I'm all down with it. Like, I love making these stupid little wagers.
Yeah,
you know where to find us. Yeah,
and that's at so. Surprise, they're still here. Twitter, Metaverse, Facebook, Instagram at Drunkenomical, DRUNKENOMICAL. You will know that you're at the right one, because especially on Twitter, because we don't have a blue check mark, we don't have a gray check mark, unless we do. But I know we don't have a blue one.
I don't know that we have either, but all I know is that we have a little TM logo next to it, which is trademark logo. But yes, you can find us there. That's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We have a TikTok that we haven't posted anything on, and then we also have LinkedIn, so feel free to message us there.
Yep, track us down on the LinkedIn. That's always a fun place to get to know people, get to see people.
Yeah, feel free to add us.
And then from all of those, you should find the invite to our Discord, where you can jump in, hang out with the other econoholics and drinkonomists, send questions our way, talk to each other, just have fun.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a great conversation. And we also have channels like Not Financial Advice. Speaking of which, anything we say in this little presentation, whatever you want to call it, we are drinking, so none of this is financial advice. Also, thoughts do not reflect. Yeah. So and also,
these are our opinions, not necessarily. These are our opinions, not necessarily. Don't reflect the opinions of any employers. We may or may not. So this is definitely us.
Yes.
Don't assume that we're
don't assume that
information.
Don't assume that what I'm saying is the thoughts and viewpoints of the people that I work for. But with that said, feel free to join the conversation. We love talking with you guys. We love interacting with you guys.
Absolutely.
If you have questions for us, we love answering them, or at least attempting to answer them, such as the question we got in our Gmail. So someone reached out to us through our email account, the Drunkonomical email account.
Which I think just drunkonomics@gmail.com.
Or Drunkonomical, might be dear. Yeah, might be the same.
Drunkonomical@gmail.com.
Yeah, this is a pretty interesting question. I wish, I'm so sorry. I'm so bad at checking the Drunkonomics email. But yeah, it was from a super fan of ours. So one, thank you so much for all those drinks with us all these years. We really appreciate it. I've enjoyed every single one.
Absolutely.
But
next day me hasn't always, but
yeah, I know.
Day
Right?
of me loves it.
Yeah, I know. Well, a little tip for everybody: take a little Advil before you go to bed, or some sort of ibuprofen before you go to bed after a long night of drinking. And I'm telling you, it helps a lot. It's like
another one for me: tactical waters.
Oh yeah,
try to have at least a water an hour. While you're drinking, it really helps the next day.
That is really tactical.
And
that's a really good point. Yeah. But back to the question, it was, first of all, thank you for all the kind words. Glormar, if I feel bad if you didn't want me to say your name on the thing, but this is your first name. But yeah, thanks for all the kind words. Hope you're doing well. I love the question about
enjoying sunny Southern California. I think is where
it's kind of like Arizona. It's really nice out here right now. But I really
it was snowing here today.
Sorry, I don't know what to tell you. But I love the question. It was about people in Europe have to pay 50%, depending on where you live, up to 50% in income taxes. The question was, are they better off or worse off? Because a lot of the things that such as like childcare, education, healthcare, all that kind of stuff, a lot of that is provided by the government. So I think she was just asking, are they better off because those services are provided by the government, or are we better off here in the States where we don't pay as much in income tax, but we have to pay for those services? And because we have to pay for those services, that amount could be equal to, less than, in some cases, more than, in some cases, than 50% of our entire income, if you include taxes and all that kind of stuff. So really good question.
No, I enjoyed the question because it was a big one, and that's kind of you really do get a personal. It all depends on what you personally think you want to do. I think is the big one there. To me, looking at it.
Yeah, it's a really
it's multifaceted to it. So this isn't necessarily a one size fits all, but what I will say is the United States spends more on healthcare than any other country. Per capita, like just more. Period.
Yes, than everybody.
So it's not just per capita; it's more. And
it's also per capita and it's also more. So
yes, but it's one of those things where you're like, are people necessarily seeing that benefit? And the answer is, if you've got, I look at the cost of certain things, so the cost of EpiPens, the cost of insulin if you're diabetic. Those costs are very expensive. And if you were in if you were in an European nation and it was free or essentially, it would be better for you. Essentially, if you're going to use the system in question, it's better to be in a system where those costs are already being paid for out of your taxes, right? So if if you're a European college student, it's good to have free tertiary education. If you're a European parent, it's nice to have childcare when you go back to work. If you're a European parent, it's nice to have a year of paid leave when you first have a child, right? So these are all benefits that they have that are paid for out of government schemes that don't exist in the U.S. Now, if you're in the U.S. and you are you didn't go to college. You don't have kids. You wouldn't be taking advantage of these benefits. Yeah, of course you're technically doing better here than you would be there, but at the same time, I think the U.S. system's a little mean.
Well, and it's also like, do you want to decide, which? Because I'm sure, like, even if it's provided by the government, like at the end of the day, it's state controlled. It's all nonprofit, state controlled. So it's up to you whether you like that or not, right? If you like that, then maybe you are better off over in Europe. Whereas if you like to choose, if you like to look at all these daycare systems, like which one do you want, which one, based on price, based on how they interact with kids, based on what kind of books they read to kids when they're, I don't know, right? I've never worked in daycare, but like stuff like that, right? You want to be able to, like, if you want to be able to look at that kind of stuff and kind of make a tailored decision towards you, that might be better off for you, but it also depends. Like, is that going to push you over that 50% income tax level?
Yeah. Basically what it boils down to is that's the exact answer, is if more than 50% of if you spend more than 50% of your income on, if you lose 50% of your income at a marginal rate, right? So if you're paying marginally more here in the US than you would be in Europe, then yeah, no, obviously it's a better deal to be there.
Yeah, but I think you're exactly right. It's like, are you using the system or are you not, right? Because I think, if you're a very healthy person, like, someone like me, for instance, I'm not trying to sit here and say I'm extremely healthy, because I'm not. I'm a binge drinker. But what I'm trying to say is, like, I haven't been to, I haven't, like, had an injury or illness and like a serious injury or illness in a long time where I needed to go to the ER or anything like that. Right. So, like, would it be worth it for me to pay that 40% in taxes? I'm not saying that I would have to if I was living in Europe, but if I did, it wouldn't make any sense because I'm not taking advantage of those services. But in that case, I have no choice but to pay it. Right. Like, if I was living in Europe, I would have no choice, because if I don't pay it, it's tax evasion. Whereas,
it's very much to me, it's that, who has it better? I would argue that technically in the US, healthcare is, if you were to be treated at hospitals for major things, it becomes free if you make less than the mean in your area. Like, if you make less than that salary, if you like less than that average income, and it's because hospitals are technically nonprofits in the US, most of them, and so they have to donate services if you legitimately can't afford it. Now, they're not going to advertise that. They're not going to tell you that they have a financial aid office that they're going to deal with this on your behalf, or that if you bring it up, they have to work with you. They don't want you to know that.
Yeah, because that's really labor intensive, and they don't want to have to go through all that kind of stuff.
Well, they also just want you to pay. I mean, that's the easiest one, is they just want you to pay.
Of course, but if you ask a hospital administrator, that's the reason, is they don't want to deal with the logistics side of. But yeah, but it's also like the second part of that question, when we say it's multifaceted, is, there's one, like, does it push you over that 50% threshold? Like, because if you are paying for those services that the European government is providing for Europeans, if you are paying for those, the first part of the question is that pushing you over, like, I guess your take home income, like your discretionary income? Is that push?
Exactly.
Is your discretionary income more or less than a European of the same equivalent, socioeconomic status or whatever it is? And I guess the second part of that question is, well, is the quality of these things better or worse in Europe, right? And that's really not for any of us to decide. I mean, like, I can't decide for James whether or not, his daycare for his imaginary children that he doesn't have, I can't decide whether or not that's, it's the best for James, or I can't decide if it's better that the government takes care of that for James, or if it's better for him to choose which of the services in the local areas is best for his kid. I can't decide that.
Yeah, no, it's very much in the end, it's that they provide a much more secure social safety net, and that you have to pay for it with higher marginal tax rates. The next thing is does that make a happier, better society? And I think, I won't say it's better or worse. I will say it's different, and that if you believe it is better, then it is. And if you believe it is not as good, from your perspective, you may be right.
Yeah.
That's where we are on that one. So that's that question kind of.
And I hope I appreciate that you appreciated my response. And hopefully, you kind of got to hear from both of us. But, for other listeners out there too, for other Drinkonomists and Econoholics out there, like, hopefully you learned something about this. I don't, it really is just like I don't know, is it better or is it not better? And of course, politicians are going to say it's better for everybody. It's a one size fits all issue, which I don't necessarily think it is.
Which it's not, it's never,
exactly.
One size does not fit all. So,
but seriously, love hearing from you guys. I mean, that's I love hearing these kinds of things. And also, Tim, I still haven't responded to Tim's thing. Also, I am seeing his little message in the Discord about Amazon cutting 10,000 jobs, and they've already reduced their headcount by 80,000. Wow. Has anyone else been noticing this?
Yeah. Well, they all are. It's not just Amazon. It's also, we saw Facebook, we've seen Twitter. I think Google or Alphabet has slowed hiring or frozen hiring.
Well, they've also laid off some people too. Obviously, the big one is Meta, Twitter. I think Snapchat was massive too. A lot of retailers, I think, are also cutting back, but I'm not.
Yeah, well, retails. We're about to see. So we're going into the holiday season, and we're going to see whether or not, if the retailers are there. I mean, I think the retailers are in a lot of economic trouble, and so I don't know that between people not having money and there not necessarily being as much stuff being ordered, we're going to see. I don't think retailers can buoy a market that's
Okay, I actually
struggling
just
right now.
Googled it while you're saying that. And first of all, I absolutely agree with you. I don't know if retail can buoy the entire market, but I am seeing that I am seeing that the labor market is still strong in retail just because a lot of people are quitting. For what, I don't know. Granted, this is also an issue, like like an article that I'm seeing from back in September. So I don't know, but all I know is that this week is a big week for the two big things this week is retail. A lot of retail numbers come out midweek this week, which would be November 16th, right? So a lot of retail numbers come out then.
Yep.
On top of that, the other big thing this week is the other side of inflation, which is the PPI, so the producer price index that comes out tomorrow
Yeah,
in
which
the
will
AM,
yeah.
which will be pretty interesting.
I mean, we saw CPI last week come out, 7.7 down from 8.2 last year and down under the 8% they were expecting.
Yeah.
Obviously, the markets went nuts.
Yeah. Oh my God. What, the Dow went up 1,000 points or something like that. Yeah. So like if you look at the retail, if you look at the inflation numbers, it looks like great news. And I mean, it kind of is, but if you think about it, like month over month, it's still up about 0.4%. And things have not, like inflation went down, but things are still more expensive, like a 7.7%.
Well, inflation didn't go down. Inflation is increasing at a slower rate than
that's what I mean. Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
so the increase, okay, my bad. I bought my tongue.
The increase has slowed. The speed of inflation has.
You know how I talk when I drink some Glenmoe. Okay, so I'm sorry. I just drink
I do, and that's why I'm just trying to make sure that.
No, well, I'm glad you corrected me.
I say it correctly.
Yeah, because I didn't want to confuse anybody out there. But yes, the inflation acceleration, if you must, has slowed. Yep. They were expecting a hotter inflation acceleration or a hotter inflation print.
It was it was a little cooler than they expected.
It was a lot cooler, yeah. But if you really think about it, it's still, like I said, it's still up 0.4% month over month. Things are still way more expensive than it was last year. And I don't know if it's going to get any better. The problem I have with this is, one, you see headlines like, the one that our righteous bloke Tim mentioned in the Discord, Amazon cutting 10,000 jobs. You see headlines like that, and then you see inflation at 7.7%, or CPI at 7.7%, I should say. You see those headlines, and then you're like, okay, well, do you think the Fed, should the Fed or should they not start pivoting, or at least language of a pivot, should that be existence or not? And I agree.
That's easy. That's an easy one for me.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. But this morning, Lael Brainerd, who is the new vice chair of the Federal Reserve, she was very, adamant about, hey, maybe we should start talking about pivot. Maybe we should start slowing rates down. Maybe the next hike should not be quote unquote jumbo.
The thing is, it could be a fluke. It could be. I think that it's premature to start talking about.
Yeah.
Talk about.
Well,
let's put it this way. It took them 6 months of inflation running hot for them to admit that it wasn't transitory and that they needed to do jumbo rate hikes to try and deal with it. Suddenly, they get slightly better news. They get slightly better news one time, and they go, "Well, maybe it's time to ease off." Absolutely not.
Right.
No, they need to. If they're right, they were too slow last time, they're being too willing to ease down.
But also, I don't think. I mean, it's politics, right? In many cases, it is right where it's. I don't want I don't want there to be a recession under my watch, right? I want to do everything I can to navigate a soft landing. So you have to flirt with the idea of, okay, well, we might just raise it by 50 basis points at the next meeting, which I think I agree with you 100%. I'm in the same camp. I'm just trying to
No, I know. I think they are. I think they have to consider it. They have to explore that as an option. I'm not saying that they can't. I'm just saying they shouldn't be talking about it like this.
No, I'm
also saying that they're probably.
Well, and like I said,
I don't think it would be the right thing. But then again,
well, I mean, one of the things I've been saying a lot around my workplace is mixed signals is for Tinder, not for the Federal Reserve. But apparently, right now, it's also for the Federal Reserve. But it's weird because, if you look at the labor market, sorry, that was really bad, I know. But if you look at it. Okay, well, if you liked it, that makes me feel a lot better about myself. But the labor market, even though big tech and all these big companies are cutting down jobs and slowing hiring and whatever it is, you see that happening. But the most recent jobs report is still looking super strong. So I think we need to start seeing weekly jobless claims. I said that really weird. Weekly jobless claims. Those need to go up, and then on top of that, the next JOLTS report that needs to just scream pain. And if that does scream pain, then okay, fine. 50 basis points, we can start talking about it.
Yeah, no, I'd give you. I'd agree with you there. I would need to in that what you want to see in order to support the let's slow down our rate hikes. Yeah, that you'd want to see it not just from one. You'd want to see reason to do that from all the data you're looking at, not just one set.
Yeah, because if you just look at CPI, it's like, okay, well, yeah, let's talk about 50 basis points. Let's talk about slowing down and going away from the jumping rate hikes. But their job is not just inflation, but it's employment, right? Or
they have to look at other data to determine, like, okay, this is great backward looking data, but what is other data telling us about the future? What are we projecting
exactly
for data?
Yeah, but like I said, it's not just inflation. The Fed's job is to make sure they optimize inflation and employment, or I don't know what the language is. Is it employment or unemployment? Whatever it is.
They are to manage inflation and unemployment.
Okay, fine. Unemployment, the negative. But yeah, like they have to look at that too. Like they have to keep a really close eye on the job market. And that's why I've been saying, the last couple of weeks is like the job market is still insanely strong. That's why I'm in the same camp as you, is because job market is strong. Why even flirt with the idea of slowing down?
Yeah, the job market is still very strong. Why are you trying to speed it up?
Yeah,
why you need to?
And granted, like raising it by 50 basis points is still slowing it down, but like the job market is still insanely strong. Like it's still ridiculously strong,
and that's usually a very good indicator of future-looking inflation. So why are you?
Yes,
you got good news about last month. But the thing is, that's over. Let's worry about the months we're still facing, not the ones we've already faced.
Yeah, so it's so weird. Like it's like the stock market. You know how, like, remember when the stock market reached, like, when the Dow was at like 35K or whatever it was? It was like there's like we were both looking at each other like there's room for carnage because this makes no sense. This is just not a rational market.
Correct.
And then we're looking at the labor market too. We never actually commented on this, but it's like the labor market too. There's room for carnage because this is just not sustainable. Like that kind of labor market is not sustainable.
No,
and we're still in the same camp, right? Which if you want to like argue about wage inflation and how like like the bigger companies can buy jobs better than small businesses, we can have that discussion, but I don't really want to have that right now.
No, it's when we've already had that one.
Yeah,
we had that one, I think, going into and coming out of the COVID lockdowns. So it's
and we can have it again, but it's just it's a rough situation. So I think really just furthering your point over and over again, which I don't really like doing, but no, let's keep with the jumbo rate hikes. I don't like what it does to interest expense more than the next guy, but I think it's just kind of like a necessary evil.
It is right now, because that's what other data, that's what other factors are showing me, or at least that's how I'm interpreting everything I'm seeing.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll also see what happens to we'll see what happens to PPI tomorrow, right? Like it's if that comes in a lot colder than expected too, that's also really, really good news. But I don't know. I think going into the winter months, I don't necessarily see inflation improving. I hope it does. Believe me, I really hope it does. But
I'd like for it to be under control. I just don't think it is. That's, I guess, the way to put it.
I'm just I'm not trying to be a pessimist, but I'm trying to be a realist. Which oftentimes is synonymous with pessimist. But like I understand. Like I just don't see the winter months being kind to energy prices and food prices. That's all I'm going to say. And those two baskets of goods, I think, is not going to be kind to CPI or inflation data in general. But
no.
With that said, I don't know. Should we talk about
last week? There was some pretty big news, right? We got CPI on, what was it, Thursday or Wednesday? Wednesday.
Man, okay, Thursday. So it was Wednesday. Dude, I don't remember. Last week was kind of rough because I kind of made a pretty big life decision last week. So
I think it was Thursday. We got that. And now tomorrow we get Tuesday the 15th, we get the PPI numbers. But then on Friday, obviously we had FTX declaring bankruptcy, Sam Bankman-Fried stepping down as the CEO.
What do you call the opposite of a legend?
Oh boy, yeah. No, there's you're still a legend. It's just
like a martyr, or like I don't want to be too medieval. But
let's see, what is it? There's you're either legendary or infamous, right? So I guess he's a little more infamous now.
Yeah, the infamous SBF. Yeah. So I don't know that much about the story. All I know is that people were customers of customers, clients, whatever you want to call them, if you want to be sophisticated, call them clients, but clients of FTX, they deposited the money into FTX, which is supposed to be like a brokerage account, right? It's supposed to be like
so it was
like
an
Schwab,
exchange.
a Robinhood.
It was an exchange. It was trying to be a Robinhood of cryptocurrency, essentially
of just cryptocurrency, right? So it's kind of like a Coinbase competitor.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes. And they apparently a lot of that money was being, or a lot of the assets put in there were being misappropriated by Alameda Research, which is a trading firm, not a research firm.
And who owns Alameda Research again? I totally forget
that
this.
That is also Sam Bankman-Fried. So he's also the owner there.
That's why that company is so familiar. Got it. Okay.
Yep. So it looks like but it looks like the guys over at Alameda were borrowing money from FTX to do what they were doing. And FTX was allowing them, was taking essentially the assets held in customer accounts to allow Alameda to do that.
Well,
and
let me ask you this:
in order for Alameda to borrow it, they levered against tokens, so FTTs, which is a cryptocurrency that Alameda made to give in place, and then those started to be sold off when people started to get nervous, which collapsed the value of Alameda, collapsed the liquidity and the capitalization of FTX. Yeah, no, it was absolute carnage.
Yeah, well, I mean, all I remember on Friday was a lot of people that invested in FTX at the early stages that saw their money grow to by 8,000% and then all the way back down to zero. A lot of those people, like the Kevin O'Leary's of this world, I forget the other guy. There's another guy on CNBC that I saw. I forget his name, but he went on CNBC to talk about it. And they were basically just like, we need more regulation. Like, I can assure you, I'm not making this mistake again, because there just wasn't enough regulation around this. And I think part of it was crypto, I get it, is still a pretty new, it's a pretty new phenomenon. And it was popular back in 2016. It became repopularized during the COVID pandemic. But the SEC has just been super slow to grasp an understanding on it.
Yeah, and to make decisions on how to regulate. And it's because they don't. The SEC.
They didn't want to recognize it. I feel like they just didn't want to recognize it as an actual asset or commodity. They just didn't. I feel like that's what it was. But I would. I mean,
well, I think it's. I think legitimately the SEC is waiting. The SEC needs guidance on how it is supposed to treat these things. Is it because they're not going to say, oh, it's currency, because it's not. It's not backed by anything. It's not. So it's not a currency. So it's not store of value. They can't treat it like currency. Yeah, clearly not. Then there's is it an asset? Is it is it a security? Is it an actual physical asset? Well, no. So it doesn't necessarily fall under any of the categories that they'd be able to say we're going to regulate it this way because this is what we consider it in terms of what it is.
Well, the weird thing is,
and so they're waiting. They're waiting for Congress to define it.
Yeah, well, good luck with that, because that's going to take forever.
I agree.
It's going to take forever.
And even then, it'll probably be wrong.
Yeah, and then guess what? It's going to take forever again for them to fix it. But I feel like Congress wanted to be like equity, but it's like, it's not a stock. It's not because unlike a currency, it's not backed by a central bank, and unlike a security, it's not backed by a company. There's no cash flows. Yeah, there's no cash flows. Yeah.
Sam Bankman-Fried may have been a little on the nose when he described it as a Ponzi scheme.
He actually described crypto as a Ponzi scheme?
Yeah, he said crypto has a lot more in common. He did. And at one point, compare it to a Ponzi scheme.
What's weird, because like I remember last year or whenever it was, like I made a joke on Jokenomics saying, if you think crypto is worth this much money, if it's fairly priced at this much money, then let me ask you a question. What's the cash flow? And I got some backlash on that. What's the cash flow of Bitcoin? And I get it. Like it's a currency, quote unquote, a currency, which it isn't, but it's a currency, right?
Yeah, which
currencies don't have cash flow. Yeah, but currencies don't have. Yeah, like if you trade Forex at all, like you don't really look at like the fundamentals of the Japanese yen.
You're probably looking at other things.
You're probably
hopefully
looking at
on a macro level.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a really interesting story because like people. Apparently, they were depositing money into their FTX accounts, right? Which, think of it as like a Robinhood account or E-Trade account. If you really want to, think of it as like a checking account that you can buy and hold cryptocurrency in. And normally speaking, when you deposit money into a checking account and you don't touch it, you expect to be able to withdraw whatever dollar amount is in that checking account right away. Well, in this case for FTX, apparently they were using that money to lend to Alameda Research. They would take deposits from clients and then just kind of cross their fingers and just hope that they keep it in there
hope that there wasn't a major, and hope there weren't major withdrawals, right? Because it's not, and that's not inherently different from what you see. Essentially, you need to keep enough money on hand to deal with withdrawals.
Well, exactly. And most banks are like that, anyways. Like, you know,
and exchanges the same way. The issue here, or brokerages are the same way. The issue here is that he wasn't, or they, rather than just him, decided that they had some very suspicious accounting practices. They set things up through back doors so that it wouldn't trip any red flags with auditors, or with even with major, no one would notice. The regulators, their auditor, the regulator wouldn't notice what they were doing or how they were doing it. So essentially, this is the big point: is they're saying that as of Friday, $10 billion had left FTX and had gone to Alameda. Most of that money is now, they don't know where that money now is. It's not disappeared. It can't be tracked.
Wow.
That about between $1 and $2 billion of client money is unaccounted for at this point. They do not know where it is. Really? It's no longer an FTX. They cannot say where it is.
That's not just an accounting error at that point. It's like
this is where we run into a 5-letter word that starts with F.
You rounded to the wrong decimal by 9 digits?
Yeah.
10 digits?
This isn't an accident. It stops being an accident.
Is that the 5-letter word that starts with F? Or am I way off on that one?
It's definitely. No, you are correct. It's where you stop going. It's where, this accident isn't actually an accident. It was deliberate, and it demonstrably misrepresents what we're dealing with.
No, yeah. We're dealing with here. I think, it's got the fingerprints of that 5-letter word written all over it.
It does. It reminds me of, and apparently I'm not the only one this reminded of getting strong Enron vibes. From
I was gonna say Bernie Madoff, or if you would like, or Stratton Oakmont, but like at a much bigger level, right? Because like Stratton Oakmont
this is way bigger than Stratton. It smacks of Madoff. It smacks of
Jordan Belfort.
It smacks of that. It absolutely does. Let's see, what else are we dealing with? As of Friday, when FTX declared bank,
but he's still
it's a Bahamian company, FTX, and so one of the things FTX did is they declared. They filed for bankruptcy protections, and they discontinued allowing any trading or withdrawals from the exchange on Friday. This week, they had been facing a lot of withdrawals because people were pulling their money out. If you're the first guy,
doing the smart thing.
If you're the first guy to pull your money out of the Ponzi scheme, you probably get paid.
You probably get pennies on the dollar back. Yeah.
If you're the last person to try to withdraw from a Ponzi scheme, you're probably not going to get much.
Well, exactly. It's kind of like, I forget what that what the name of that actual. I was studying this in the CFA, which talking about, earlier in this episode, I said I made a big life decision. I signed up for the CFA. My life is over.
Yeah, you started CFA.
I signed up for it. I'm not feeling too optimistic about it, but granted, I just signed up for it. We'll see what happens. But it was, I forget what the name of. See, this is how bad I am at studying. It's like some sort of some sort of mentality, a psychological thing where like you're reluctant to sell a stock that has decreased in value, but you're like really quick to take profits, right? Which a lot of people are like that. Like they buy stock.
Yeah, it's the idea is that you don't want to sell your underperformer because you're like, oh, it'll come back, it'll bounce back. Because the moment you sell that, you lose. You have actually lost, and then you made then you have to sit there and go, why did I make a bad choice? Why did I hold this long? Whereas the other one, you could say, look at this win. But
I forget the name of that condition. It's some sort of condition, but I feel bad that I forgot about it. And I know.
Oh, the disposition effect?
That's
the disposition effect.
That's what it is. Oh my God. Yeah, the disposition effect. Yes, that's exactly what it is. Yes. So that's the condition. Well, now I'm not going to forget it. Okay, so the disposition effect.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is with the Ponzi scheme is by the time you know that you need to pull your money out now, it's too late. And so until then, you're sitting on this winner, and you see these statements that show you growing, and you're like, man, why would I pull my money out until it's hollow, it's fake, it's fraud. That's the 5-letter F word.
There it is.
Now at FTX, the other issues they've got is, or some of the other issues they're dealing with is that they they were worth 32 billion at some point earlier this year, right? So like they had valuations that said they were doing very well. They had investment from Sequoia Capital.
Yeah, so that's the CNBC guy I was talking about. He was the founder of Sequoia Capital, but that was saying like we need more regulation, and of course Kevin O'Leary. But yeah,
here's the big one. At this point, Sequoia Capital has written down its $213 million investment to zero.
Really?
And a pension fund out of Canada, I think it was like the Ontario Teachers Pension Fund, has also written their investment down to zero. So eventually these big guys are saying we do not expect to get our money back, or our investment money back in it. The only people who can legitimately hope to get what's theirs back is the customers, people that were actually
deposited
using
money. I was going to say like the people that deposited money in those accounts, try and trade crypto
accounts.
with.
And the only reason they do is because based on my understanding of the limited reading I've had, is that the policies of FTX were that at no point did FTX take control of your assets. You're not an investor like an investment bank. You would be. You are a depositor or a customer like a commercial bank, and so they have to keep your funds separate. They're supposed to have your funds segregated away from their own.
So are you saying like, so if Sam Bankman-Fried were to get convicted, because I feel like he had enough agreements, like whenever you open up any brokerage account or bank account or whatever it is,
sure,
all these disclosures agreements they have to agree to, all that kind of stuff. Nobody reads them.
Yeah, but you can't. Right. But you can't waive the law. You can't waive criminal or civil law.
Exactly.
So I could write a contract. with someone that says that I'm more than happy to sell a person to them. But it's illegal and not binding.
Yeah, exactly. Just like if you ate dinner and then you got the bill and you signed the credit card, and then on the thing said, like I can access this credit card whenever I want.
Yeah,
like,
it's crazy.
You sign it away to the waiter.
That isn't
That's
binding.
Totally illegal, right?
Right. So like you can make an agreement with them that isn't binding. Now you might have problems if like you go to arbitration. But this is not going to go to arbitration. This is going to go to court.
Yeah, but the only difference with this is like there's not as much regulation around crypto. So like they're saying, okay, if you deposit money in this and it's backed by FTT or whatever it is, but you can borrow against like, can you let us borrow your money with the exchange of this FTT coin placeholder? Like if they sign that agreement, like I don't know if that's legal or not, but I don't know if the SEC or Congress knows that that's legal or not, just because there's not any regulation on that yet. It's such a new concept to them.
Well,
but at the same time,
you're not wrong.
Yeah, but I was gonna say like, but if there's commingling involved, which I think is that where you're headed? Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what I was going to say is it's when you start to see, so the problem that he's facing isn't necessarily that this firm failed. It'll be that did FTX US, which is the US based company, and did Alameda Research, were they violating accounting? Like were their accounting practices illegal? Thus were they committing a fraud on all their investors, which is a crime?
Like with Holmes.
Were they commingling funds? Yes. Exactly. Were they commingling funds, which in violation of
which is a big SEC violation? Yeah, I mean that's a big no-no. Yeah.
Were the let's put it this way: the SEC and the CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, are both probing the relationship between FTX and then the American counterpart, FTX US, and Alameda Research, right? So if you're going to do business in the US, you have to do business a certain way. You cannot. There was a big deal when Siemens Westinghouse, right? So joint US German firm. The German part of the firm was paying bribes in Africa,
which is legal in Germany.
It's not illegal in Germany to pay bribes in the way they were doing it. They were not committing a crime in Germany. But in the U.S., it's illegal to do that. So suddenly, this company is facing very serious issues over what's illegal in the U.S., not occurring in the U.S., but is still happening, right?
Yeah. So it's kind of like the whole Russian oil thing, right? Where like, okay, Russia can't sell oil to Europe or to the U.S., but they can sell it to India, and India can sell it to Europe and the U.S., right? So it's kind of like that.
But they can't sell Russian oil to the U.S. or Europe.
But they can sell it to India. India can refine it, and now it's Indian oil, right? So
or now it's Indian something. See, that's, and they could argue, this isn't.
So that's what I mean, right? Like, so it's kind of like that. I'm trying to draw all the way back to FTX somehow, some way, but like,
the issue is like FTX Bahamas might not be committing a crime that's illegal in the Bahamas, but if it's committing a crime if FTX US, which is its US trading, is committing a crime in the US, if they're committing a crime they're committing something an act that is illegal in the US, and FTX US is their counterparty that does business inside the US. there are issues because it goes, okay,
Yeah.
so it becomes FTX was committing a criminal act, an act that would be criminal in the US, and you were benefiting from that and using that money to then pursue what you would otherwise consider legal business in the US. So the answer is no, because of the illegal act by that part of your company, this part of the company is now also committing an illegal act, right? So it's not that you don't just get to say, oh, that's the German division, so that's fine because it's not illegal in Germany. The US would go, well, it's still illegal here, and your company, a company that because your share price and this and this and this, your books are one united book. It's a crime in the US. You don't just get to go, oh yeah, well, that's our division there. It's legal. Well, it's not legal here. So your division, all divisions, it's as if you are committing the act.
Yeah. Well, and think about it this way too. Like, so FTX, they're publicly traded in the U.S. And one of the big things, I think it was pretty funny because I saw a lot of memes about it. But FTX, their stadium or arena or whatever, the basketball arena, did you see that? There was like an arena named the FTX Arena.
That's where the Miami Heat play.
Yeah. So, but they lost their naming rights.
Yeah, they have broken.
It's pretty funny with that and the fact that, this obviously their U.S. traded share price has plummeted, right? So there's a lot of implications here on what's going to happen. To be honest with you, if Sam Bankman-Fried gets away with this, I don't wish that he does, because I think a lot of people have been hurt and he's made a ton of money off of this. He's got a net worth of $900 million still. Granted, it was $15 billion at one point, but I'm not going to feel bad for a guy worth $900 million. So my thing is, he's got his golden parachute. Well, I'm worried that he gets away with it because at the end of the day, he's hurt a lot of people.
Well, the next thing is then they'll see him in civil court.
Yeah, but I don't know how far that's going to go, to be honest with you.
Doesn't matter. If they drain him of his wealth and he ends up with nothing, then I would say you haven't served justice, but he hasn't profited from his illegal act or his bad act.
But the tough thing about civil court is if you lose the case, now you just spent a ton of money and now you got to pay for it all. Right.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah. So I don't know. But I think you make a good point with the whole accounting standards, right? Because think about what happened with Elizabeth Holmes. If she actually I feel like if she actually just focused on the company, the technology of the company, maybe she had something there. I don't know. But I think she was too focused on raising money and trying to get investors. And that's how it became fraud.
Well, the other thing was her tech wasn't there. And so, she was... Yeah,
I'm saying
you're not wrong. There's a question of when did the fraud begin? And it didn't start as a fraud.
Yeah, but the thing
it became fraud.
Yeah, but the thing about Theranos was they were developing the tech, which the tech absolutely was not there in the time that it needed to be there. Yeah, but could it have been there? I have no idea. I have no idea. But it maybe, and if it was true, if this is actually a thing where you can actually do a full-on blood test with just a drop of blood, that's I'm sure that's very useful technology at some point.
It is. So the issue, and that's the thing, is the question is, Bernie Madoff probably, let's put it this way, his investment firm was a fraud.
I want her, and I feel like Sam Bankman, his closest comparison, I feel like is Bernie Madoff. If you had to, because it's
the difference is, I'm willing to bet that Sam Bankman-Fried started legitimate, but it became a fraud. At a certain point, he just tumbled into a Ponzi scheme and kept going. It's kind of what I think really, to be fair, this is probably the first fraud. So we're in an economic downturn. I think times are gonna be harder. And I think this is probably just the first of many frauds that are about to be revealed.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like the old saying. They always say adversity kind of shows you who you really are. And I feel like it's kind of, economic adversity shows people who they really are. And if you're a fraud, I feel like it comes out. So I think, in the coming months, you're absolutely right. There could be a lot of, oh my God, this person was a fraud all along, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, and here's why. Because I feel like I should kind of explain why fraud generally gets exposed.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, frauds are born almost always in good economic times and then revealed in bad economic times.
Yeah.
It's almost always just because for some reason times are good and they're okay, look, we had a down quarter or either something really, really good happened and they're okay, if we don't kind of stick around there, we're going to my incentives are tied to the stock price.
Yeah.
If we don't stick around this kind of earnings, then my stock, my incentives will go down.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good. So that's one part of it. Two, it might just be that you have someone who's like, they've had a down quarter or a bad period, and they're like, well, times are fine. It's a temporary problem. We'll fix it, we'll address it, and we'll undo it later.
Yeah.
Right.
But we'll take future class flows, and that'll kind of make amend the gap or whatever it is. Yeah. Or future growth or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's generally what you're running into. And then what happens is you get into the bad times, and suddenly it's like, well, I cannot keep doing this. Like, the cash isn't there. It's obvious that it's not real. I can't sit here and say, oh no, we're still having these huge revenues because.
Well, usually what it comes down to is like, does it or does it not make sense, right? Like, if you look at, allegedly, this is, I've never seen like any of, what's his name, Bernie Madoff's balance sheet stuff and his investment portfolio strategy or whatever it is. I've never seen any of that. But from people that have seen it, from what I've heard, it's always been like, this risk profile makes no sense, right? Like, the return you're getting from this risk profile makes no sense whatsoever. So a lot of people that I feel like that catch a fraud, it's like, this makes no sense. Like, the thing that you're promising, it's way too good to be true, like the old saying.
Yeah, it's not, this isn't possible.
Yeah, like, the old saying, like, if it's too good to be true, it's not. Yeah. Like, I feel like that's what it is.
Yeah, if it seems good if it seems too good to be true, you're probably right.
But that's what's
and that's
it's just not sustainable. It's just kind of like, looking at just something that I just want to blurt out there, like credit, just in case you're kind of wondering where we are at in the economy. Credit card debt, all-time highs, personal savings rates. If you look at personal savings,
all-time lows.
Yes, all-time lows. I mean, I don't know if it's all-time, but it's since COVID,
they're certainly plummeting.
Since COVID, yeah. I mean, it's a massive divergence between credit card spending or the credit card.
And you see level. It, yeah. You can see credit card. You saw saving shoot as COVID started. You saw saving going up, credit card going down, and then we came out of it, and they just looked at each other and started going different directions, and not in a good way.
Yeah, exactly. And I will post this on the Instagram story on Thursday. So if you want to see it, the graph that I'm looking at, I will post it on Thursday. And I might post it again on Friday, just to make sure that you can see it. So I might post it on Thursday and Friday of this week on our Instagram story. It's not going to be a post. Sorry. I don't know. I just don't post that often. But Thursday and Friday, the 17th and 18th, I'll probably post this graph just so you can see what I'm looking at. But yeah, it's not sustainable.
Something's going to give.
Yeah. And that's just what's happening, I think, with Sam Bankman-Fried. We made all kinds of analogies around it, but that's essentially what's going on.
Well, speaking of unsustainable, do you know what is sustainable?
What?
Looking great in Drunkenomics merch.
Oh yeah, that sounds way better than this divergence between credit card spending and personal savings. Absolutely.
Well, like I was going to say, if you have to use a credit card and not save, then you might as well look like a Drinkonomist or Econoholic while you do it.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I need to wear my merch more often because I only wear it like once a week. I need to wear it more often.
I wore my sweatshirt last week, and I feel like people were like, oh, that's.
I feel like if you wear Drunkenomics merch, you're going to be the best looking person wherever you go, however you look at it. You're just going to be the best looking person there. I
agree.
And where would they get this said Drunkenomics merch that is very sustainable?
Well, they would have to check it out at drunkenomics.myspreadshop.com.
That's what it is. You can, there's a lot of this like black hoodies, darker black hoodies. I have a white hoodie, ironically, but they have darker black hoodies.
We have hoodies, we have golf polos, we have coffee mugs. We got really almost everything you could possibly need, except for I guess we don't have bar equipment yet, so we are working on that. I promise. We had to find a place that's good quality and good price, because it can't just be one.
Yeah, we've been working on that for over a year, but it's also like we have other things to do. We have bigger fish to fry because we have full-time jobs too outside of this. Speaking of which, if you do want to leave a tip in the tip jar for whatever reason, feel free to hit us up at patreon.com/drunkenomics. That's patreon.com/drunkenomics.
Help us keep not that it's necessarily all that hard to do given the weather in Nebraska right now, but you can help keep the ice frozen.
The liquor cabinet stocked.
The lemons peeling, and the fruit and the bar cart stocked. Yeah.
So any help in any of those categories, we would very appreciate it. Additionally, like I said, feel free to give us a follow on all of our social media platforms: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and last but not least, really enjoyed drinking with all of you guys. My encouragement to you throughout the week is, of course, to continue to play chess.checkers, fill and kill, Don't brag, just say. And what else is there?
And stay drunkonomical.
That's what it is. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers.